Return to the Lord our God. Return to the Lord our God. Who is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love.
The Holy Gospel for this, the second Sunday in Lent, comes to us from the Gospel of Luke, the 13th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. At that very hour, some Pharisees came to Jesus. Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you. Jesus said to them, go and tell that fox for me, listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I will finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day, I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you. And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
In the name of the God who loves us all, grace to you and peace. First of all, let me say what a privilege it is to be with you, the members and friends of St. Peter's Lutheran Church here in Cambridge on this Lord's Day, whether you're present or whether you're at home during this service. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I say that very conscious of all the challenges of life right now in church and society and the world. Think Ukraine. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Before I turn to my message, this is a good time to thank you, the members of St. Peter's, for your continued partnership in ministry with the Eastern Synod. To thank you for your support of the Synod and the wider church through your prayers and generous benevolence offerings over the years. Support which continued even when you were dealing with COVID. It has been said that no one is anyone without everyone. Hear that. No one is anyone without everyone. That would certainly describe my family. I think it describes the church. I like that. It tells me we need each other now more than ever. No one is anyone without everyone. And by the way, that thank you also extends to your interim pastor, Pastor Chun Zhang, as he helps you in the way he can in your time of need. And another thank you for your gracious introduction. You twigged my memory, Laura, in terms of my New Dundee days. I do not remember the sermon, but I very well remember Vernon and Ruth, of course, Dale and Donna too. And when I go home after service, you made me go back the long way to Stratford through New Dundee. And I will go by the house and remember Vernon and his family. So thank you for that. Now, as for my sermon, I suspect I do what Pastor Chun does, and most, if not all, of your former pastors, and that is preach from one of the assigned lectionary readings for the day. I do it about 90% of the time. Well, you're one of the 10% today. If I had, I would probably focus on that wonderful verse from today's gospel. When Jesus proclaims, how often as I desire to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. The words, the warmth and comfort that those words portray, that image, well, they've given much solace over the years. And truly, I think our world could use a protective mother hen right now. Don't we all know that? But as I said, my sermon takes a different direction this morning. Why? Perhaps my way simply of offering encouragement in these challenging days. So here we are. March 13th. Here we are, as you've probably noticed on the news and various social media things this past week. Exactly 2 years since the global pandemic began. Particularly this weekend of March 13th to the 15th, 2020. And I'm not sure the world has ever felt as upside down in my life as it has in 2020, 2021, and in these early days of 2022. And I suspect that is true for many of you. A global pandemic, accompanying economic crisis, political division and discord all over the world, protests for justice and a better world for all people, this recent war in Ukraine, and every week it seems almost a new catastrophe or a news story or several that causes us to roll our eyes and think, now this? How much more can we take? Good question for you. Do you remember life before March 13th, 2020? Yes, you're nodding your head. I'm serious with that question. Remember, parties, family gatherings, happy hours, travel. Its more mundane activities included public transit without a mask, work days in the office or wherever you work, going to church, choir practices, attending funerals and weddings, shopping for groceries, picking the kids or grandkids up at school, going to their hockey games or dance or music lessons. Remember when you could hug people? Just do it. The world has changed. As we now know full well, every single one of those elements of normal life had been disrupted, destroyed, or turned on its head. The world we came to inhabit felt so strange, unfamiliar, and scary. We did not know what the future would hold, or how long the season of upheaval and uncertainty would last. Yes, it is better now. But I tend to be one who is hopeful most of the time. But there have been more than a few times in the last 24 months when I thought the world was broken, that everything has been messed up. I have longed for the world I knew before. Despite its imperfections and injustices, it was a world that was largely comfortable for me, and I suspect for many of you. You know what word I came to dislike, besides COVID, of course? The word no. No. So I think I hated that as a child as well, but I'm trying something different now. No, you can't walk down that aisle of the grocery store. You're going in the wrong direction. Can't you read the sign? No. You can't come in here without a mask. No, you can't see your doctor if you have one, but she'll talk to you on the phone. No, you can't come and eat inside your favorite restaurant. We are at our limit. In those early days, 2 years ago, no, you can't watch the Toronto Maple Leaf on Saturday night. Mind you, I grew up in Hamilton, and I would say, why would you watch the Toronto Maple Leaf on Saturday night? More seriously, you can't visit your loved one in the nursing home or retirement home. Your dear friend in the hospital. Sometimes even if they were dying. Do you remember those days? One no brought me to tears personally. We were about 8 months into COVID. My wife and I were Zooming with our youngest son and his wife who live in British Columbia. No, Mom and Dad, we won't be home for Christmas. Now, after 8 years of living in China and missing all those Christmases, all in our family were so looking forward to their presence at our table. Sometimes I just don't like the word no. That said, all is not lost. Our youngest son and his wife welcomed a new little one into the world, and my wife and I are going to spend some time with them over this long Easter weekend. But what do you do? What do you do when everything seems like a no? What do you do as a baptized child of God, called in our baptism to be a light to the world, when the world seems like one big no? What you do is say yes. As hard as it is sometimes, you say yes. You said yes. This community of St. Peter's said yes. When you continue to offer a strong, caring Lutheran presence in your church community and your Cambridge community as best as you could during COVID. You might have had to shut your doors, but you didn't shut your hearts or your faith. And there are other yeses, important, life-giving yeses. The world says no, but we say yes to a God who loves us most perfectly in Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world. Yes to a God who loves not only you, but every person in this world. God who is partial to all human beings, as it says in the book of Acts, chapter 10, if you want to look it up. Yes, to a God in whose presence all distinctions of class and clan, nationality, ethnic background, gender, and sexual orientation are erased. Yes, to a God who changes people by the persuasive power of love and not by the persuasive power of guilt and fear, the coercive power, I should say, of guilt and fear and violence. In a world of no, we say yes to a God who suffers with the suffering, mourns with the grieving, is crucified with those who are crucified. Yes to a God who speaks with many voices, not always just a Christian voice, but through other religions as well. Yes, our world needs to know that everyone belongs to God. In a world of no's, and we have experienced so many during this pandemic, we also say yes to Jesus. We Lutherans don't always talk that way, but let's say yes to Jesus. Yes, Jesus. Yes to Jesus, who was a human being through whom God participated in human life. Yes to Jesus, who often found himself in trouble because he took his place beside the poor, the outcast, and the dispossessed. Yes to Jesus, who lived the right answers, who asked the right questions, and I should say, lived the right answers. And yes to Jesus, who suffered as we may suffer, died as we must die, and was raised to new life as we shall all be raised. We say yes to Jesus. When COVID times, in war times, in all times, because humanity means ultimate hope for all of humanity. My friends in Christ, what am I trying to say? After 38 years of preaching, I still ask myself that every time I preach. Perhaps it's simply this. God's yes is more powerful than the world's no's that we have been living with. And that this hurting, sometimes confusing and changing world in which we live needs that God who loves us in Jesus Christ most perfectly now more than ever. That has never changed. The world needs God. The world needs Jesus. So do you and so do I. That is why I believe the church, and we hear lots and read lots about how the church has changed and is changing, even before COVID. That is why I believe the church, despite all the challenges of this 21st century, all the challenges of these last 24 months, has never been more relevant. You're showing that by being willing to call a new pastor. Because you want to be the church. And you want to say yes. We need God. We need Jesus. We need you, members and friends of St. Peter's, Cambridge. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Christ's message of peace, sacrificial servanthood, neighborly love, and unconditional justice is exactly what our ailing world needs. Our responsibilities as Christians, as followers of Jesus, is to name and claim that and offer that message right where we are, here in Preston on King Street, in our homes, our places of work, our places of worship online or right here, our places of play, our places of learning, and to do it in words and actions in the most clear, caring, loving, and just ways we can. May it be so. In the name of the God who loves us all. Amen.
I want to express my thanks for my choir members who have said yes over this time since January. Helga's sung for us, Bonnie Berg has sung for us, Barb has been here. I've contacted Kim Strasberg and she says yes. Today was Monica's day, Monica Gomes. She said yes, I rehearsed with her on Thursday. But alas, Sarah came up with a fever last night and being the mom that Monica is, they're spending time in the hospital, doing their waiting time to care for her daughter, which definitely takes, but the hope is she said yes. Yes. So when we sing this song, there's that piece of hope that's living in this tune too. It's in 613. Thy holy wings, O Savior, spread gently over me, and let me rest securely through good and ill in thee. Oh, let thy strength and portion, my rock and hiding place, and let my every moment be lived within thy grace. Oh, let me nestle near thee, within thy town be rest, where I will find sweet comfort and peace within thy nest. Oh, close thy wings around me and keep me safely there. For I am but a newborn, and need thy tender care. Oh, wash me in the waters of Noah's cleansing flood. Give me a willing spirit, a heart both clean and good. Oh, take into thy keeping